When it comes to open-world games, the same names always dominate: GTA, Skyrim, Red Dead Redemption. They're amazing, of course, but many great games were unfairly overlooked. This list is dedicated to those underrated titles: massive worlds, memorable stories, and insane freedom that somehow flew under the radar. If you're tired of the same AAA giants and want to discover something new, this video is for you. Sunset Overdrive. What Insomniac did here was reclaim the dignity of platformer shooter hybrids, but on a scale we rarely see. Sunset Overdrive's biggest barrier is psychological. The average player is conditioned to stop, aim, and shoot, but this map punishes staying still. If you stand in place for 3 seconds, the mutant hordes will run you over. The brilliance of the design lies in how the architecture of Sunset City forces you to think in 3 dimensions at all times. Every high-voltage power line, every rooftop edge, and every ventilation duct serves as a rail for a constant flow of movement. The style system isn't cosmetic, it directly dictates the effectiveness of your weapons. The more maneuvers you chain together, the more powerful your attacks become, creating a gameplay loop where aesthetics and efficiency go hand in hand. The weapons deserve a chapter of their own, completely abandoning the cliché of generic rifles and shotguns to deliver absurd tools that fire vinyl records or teddy bear-shaped explosives. It's a game that understands the value of rhythm and verticality, turning navigation from point A to point B into the most technical and rewarding part of the experience. It demands that you learn to read the environment at high speed, and once you finally master that language, the sense of control over your character is absolute. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. The depth that the Nemesis system brings to this title is something that still impresses me, even years after its release. The game creates a living chronicle of failures and successes that belongs exclusively to you. It's not just about facing bosses, it's about cultivating rivalries that evolve over time. A captain who survives one of your executions might return hours later, his body wrapped in bandages and his voice hoarse, seeking revenge at the moment you're most vulnerable. That unpredictability strips away the sense of a safe zone that most open worlds tend to have. The fortresses are massive feats of military engineering where you have to apply everything you've learned about orc hierarchy. Infiltrating a spy you've mentally dominated so he can open the gates from the inside out adds a strategic layer that gives real purpose to exploration. Combat expands on the Arkham series foundations with a necessary brutality, but the real fun lies in manipulating your enemy's weaknesses. Watching an elite general flee in terror because you exploited a specific fear against him is a display of power that no rigid, scripted sequence could ever replicate. It's a social ecosystem of monsters where every death shifts the region's balance of power, keeping the world in a constant state of change. The Saboteur. This game is a fascinating study of how art direction can be used as a direct narrative tool within gameplay. Occupied Paris is presented in heavy shades of gray, where the only details that truly stand out are the red armbands worn by enemy soldiers. This visual choice creates a constant tension, making the player feel the weight of Nazi oppression in every silent street. The protagonist, Sean Devlin, brings a far more visceral perspective to the French resistance. He doesn't fight for ideology, he fights for a personal vendetta that gradually merges with the greater cause. The climbing mechanics, while less fluid than those in an Assassin's Creed title, offer a privileged view of the city, allowing you to plan sabotage by observing patrol patterns from the tops of chimneys. The return of color to liberated districts isn't just a pretty effect, it's an indicator of civilian morale. Citizens begin to fight back against soldiers, and the environment becomes more welcoming for your escapes. There's a strong emphasis on the use of explosives and disguises, demanding that you know when to be a ghost and when to unleash as much destruction as possible. It's a title that successfully captures the melancholy and danger of a besieged city, offering a freedom of action that respects the intelligence of players who favor guerrilla tactics over direct confrontation. Diving into the world of Magellan requires a shift in mindset that most modern RPGs don't demand from the player. Piranha Bytes is known for not making things easy, and in Elex, that philosophy is taken to the extreme. The beginning of the journey is deliberately punishing, meant to emphasize just how desolate the post-apocalyptic setting really is. You're not a chosen hero with latent powers. You're an exile who has to relearn how to survive in an environment where even the local wildlife is deadly. Character progression is slow and deliberate, making every new attribute point or upgraded piece of armor feel immensely valuable. The diversity of factions, ranging from religious fanatics wielding cutting-edge technology to berserkers who reject electricity in favor of magic, creates a clash of interests where there's no obvious right choice. The map design is focused on hands-on exploration. Don't expect the game to hold your hand when it comes to finding its most valuable secrets. The jetpack is what prevents exploration from becoming exhausting, allowing you to reach elevated ruins and bypass dangers that would be fatal on foot. Dialogue and quest branches run deep, often presenting consequences that only surface dozens of hours later. It's an experience that rewards resilience and curiosity, delivering a level of immersion that only a world unafraid of being hostile can truly provide. Far Cry Primal is often criticized for sticking too closely to a rigid formula, but Far Cry Primal was the moment they decided to remove the crutch of firearms and see what would happen. The result is an open world where silence is your greatest ally. Playing in the Stone Age completely reshapes your sense of danger. The land of Oros isn't just a backdrop, it's a living organism that tries to kill you as soon as the sun goes down. Without vehicles, the scale of the map feels much larger, and every encounter with a rival tribe or a predator becomes a life or death event. The beast taming mechanic is what truly sets this game apart from the rest of the franchise. Having a wolf or a saber-toothed tiger at your side isn't just about having a helper, it's a profound tactical shift in how you approach outposts. You start using your animal's senses to track enemies and plan coordinated attacks without ever being seen. The crafting system actually makes sense here, since you need to gather stone, wood, and animal fat to keep your supply of spears and arrows stocked. It's a far more physical and sensory experience, where the sound of snapping branches or a distant growl dictates the pace of your exploration. They managed to turn primitive survival into a tense and rewarding gameplay loop. San Francisco. This title is a rare example of how an idea that sounds absurd on paper can be executed with impressive technical precision. The shift mechanic, which allows the protagonist to transfer his consciousness into any driver on the street, turns the driving genre into something tactical and almost surreal. You're not just driving a car, you're manipulating the traffic of the entire city of San Francisco to your advantage. During a chase, you can take control of a heavy truck coming the wrong way to crash head-on into your target. The sense of vehicle weight is remarkable, evoking the great car chase films of the 1970s, with suspensions that sway and tires that screech against the asphalt with satisfying realism. The map of San Francisco is massive and faithfully respects the city's iconic hills, constantly creating opportunities for cinematic jumps. The narrative smartly embraces this weirdness, justifying the protagonist's powers without losing focus on the adrenaline of the missions. It's a game that understands that fun in an open-world driving game doesn't have to be limited to racing from point A to point B, but rather to how you can use the entire environment as a tool for interception. Unfortunately, due to licensing issues, it has become a rarity, but its design remains one of the most creative in the genre. Immortals: Fenyx Rising. Although many see it as Ubisoft's response to the success of The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, this game has an identity of its own, focused on environmental puzzle solving and far more expressive combat. The world is divided into thematic regions inspired by the Greek gods, and each one functions as a massive playground filled with mechanical secrets. What really impressed me was how the vaults, the game's dungeons, require you to master the laws of physics and the protagonist's movement abilities with real precision. Combat is extremely agile, allowing for aerial combos and the use of divine powers that genuinely make you feel stronger as you unlock new skill trees. The narrative, driven by a constant back and forth between Zeus and Prometheus, brings a light-hearted tone that contrasts with the epic seriousness of other titles in the genre. The map is dense. You're never walking through vast empty spaces, because every few meters there's an archery challenge, a constellation puzzle to solve, or an elite enemy guarding a treasure. The freedom to fly with Icarus's wings provides an excellent vertical perspective, letting you plan your route by surveying landmarks from above. It's a title that respects the player's time, delivering steady progression and exploration mechanics that are genuinely fun to engage with. The Sinking City. This is a game that demands patience and a classic investigator's mindset, completely avoiding the structure of maps packed with automatic markers. Set in a flooded and decaying Oakmont, the atmosphere of cosmic horror is palpable in every waterlogged alley and every crumbling building. The big hook lies in how investigations work. The game gives you evidence, testimonies, and addresses, but it's up to you to open the map, locate the street, and place the marker manually. This process removes the feeling of being a mere spectator and puts you in the role of a detective who truly has to reason through the clues and connect the dots in their own mind palace. The boat navigation system through the flooded streets reinforces the isolation and discomfort of the setting. Combat is deliberately stiff and scarce, reflecting the protagonist's fragility in the face of abominations he can barely comprehend. Sanity is a constant mechanic. Witnessing disturbing events distorts your vision and creates hallucinations that can lead to death if you're not careful. It's an open world built on atmosphere and deduction, where the city functions as a labyrinth of dark mysteries that reveals itself at its own pace. For players who enjoy dense storytelling and gameplay that doesn't underestimate the player's powers of perception, Oakmont is a must-visit destination. Rage 2. What happens when you combine id Software's masters of first-person combat with Avalanche Studios' open-world destruction specialists? You get Rage 2. The world itself is a classic post-apocalyptic wasteland, but the true soul of the game lies in what happens when you step out of the car. The combat is, without exaggeration, some of the most fluid ever made. You have access to nanite abilities that let you launch enemies into the air, slam the ground with absurd force, and perform high-speed lateral dashes. When you pair that with an arsenal of weapons that feel almost alive, every encounter with bandits turns into a choreographed dance of chaos. The sense of impact is phenomenal. You feel the weight of every shot and the power of every explosion. The map acts as a large connector between the arcs, which are facilities where you unlock new powers. While the terrain between points can feel empty at times, it creates a necessary contrast with the sheer intensity of the firefights. The game doesn't try to win you over with a deep story, it hooks you through pure mechanical satisfaction. It's about charging into an enemy base and using your entire toolkit of powers to wipe it out in under a minute, feeling like you're the most dangerous force in that wasteland. Prototype is the purest form of what I call a destruction sandbox. In the role of Alex Mercer, you're not a hero. You're a biological virus with legs and an insatiable thirst for answers. Movement is what defines the experience here. Running up the walls of New York City skyscrapers and gliding over traffic while the military desperately tries to take you down delivers a sense of freedom that very few superpower games have managed to replicate with such aggression. The consume system is the core mechanic. You absorb people to recover health, gain their memories, or take on the appearance of military officers to infiltrate bases. The way your arms transform into claws, massive blades, or meat hammers allows you to change your combat approach mid-combo. It's a game that fully embraces excess. You can grab a helicopter out of the air and hurl it into a tank on the street below. Urban chaos escalates as the infection spreads through the city, shifting the dynamics of the streets. Watching quarantine zones collapse while you fight giant monsters in the middle of Times Square is a chaotic spectacle that still impresses today because of its sheer scale. It's a project that perfectly understands the player's desire to feel like an unstoppable force of nature. Homefront: The Revolution. This is a classic case of a game that was judged by its troubled launch, but that today stands as a highly competent urban guerrilla experience. Forget the first Homefront, which was a linear corridor shooter. The Revolution drops you into a dystopian Philadelphia, divided into districts. In the yellow zones, you have to blend in with the population, hiding your weapon and moving quietly to avoid drawing the attention of robotic patrols and drones. In the red zones, on the other hand, the game shifts into high-intensity open combat. The real-time weapon customization is fantastic. You can turn your crossbow into a grenade launcher or convert your rifle into a light machine gun in the middle of an ambush, depending on what the moment calls for. The focus here is improvisation. Since you're at a technological disadvantage, you need to rely on hacked cameras, explosive remote-controlled cars, and hit-and-run tactics. The atmosphere of a city under constant surveillance is very well crafted, with lighting that highlights the grime and desperation of the occupied areas. It's an open world that forces you to think like a rebel, planning every act of sabotage and using the urban environment to vanish as soon as the situation turns against you. Biomutant is a work that overflows with creativity and strangeness in every frame. Created by a small team, it ignores modern trends to deliver a vibrant, post-human world where nature has reclaimed everything. You play as a mutant creature that masters Wung Fu, and the combat system blends martial arts with gunplay and mutant powers in a very playful way. What truly shines here is the crafting system. It's fully modular. You can build a sword using a toothbrush handle and a circular saw blade, or create a pistol out of plumbing parts. The variety of combinations is almost endless, which makes exploration far more engaging, since any piece of junk you find could be the missing component for your favorite weapon. The world is divided into distinct biomes, each with its own environmental hazards that require special suits or specific mutations to survive. The narrator, who translates the strange languages spoken by the creatures, gives the game a fairy tale tone that is both cute and melancholic. It's a title that rewards curiosity and experimentation, allowing you to shape your character not just through skills, but through physical form and the bizarre equipment you choose to carry. Saints Row the Third. There was a time when the Saints Row franchise tried to compete directly with the realism of GTA, but it was in this third entry that it found its true voice by fully embracing absurdity. Steelport isn't a city meant to be respected, it's a playground meant to be demolished. The game removes any barrier between the player and chaos. Within minutes, you go from a cinematic bank heist to free-falling from an airplane while exchanging gunfire mid-air. What makes the experience so memorable is the variety of missions, which never become tiresomely repetitive. One moment, you're taking part in a deadly survival reality show filled with traps, and the next, you're driving a tank as it falls out of a cargo plane. The customization system is one of the most robust in the genre, allowing you to create anything from a classic action hero to the most bizarre figures imaginable, and the game treats your creation with the same comedic seriousness throughout. The respect progression and territory domination systems give purpose to the destruction, letting you upgrade your gang and turn the Saints into a global brand. It's a title that understands that, in an open world, fun should come before simulation, offering entertainment tools that defy logic and prioritize total player freedom. Just Cause 2. If there's a game that defines the concept of a visual spectacle, it's Just Cause 2. The Panau Archipelago remains, to this day, one of the most impressive maps in terms of geographic diversity, featuring scorching deserts, dense jungles, and snow-covered mountains. But the real brilliance lies in the combination of the grappling hook and the infinite parachute. This pair of tools creates a movement system that feels almost like a dance. You never need a car when you can catapult yourself from a tree to a helicopter in mid-flight. The game's physics are designed to be tested. Tethering an enemy to a gas canister and shooting the tank to watch it blast off like a rocket is just one of 1,000 possible interactions. The game doesn't ask you to deeply care about local politics. It asks you to cause as much chaos as possible to unlock new weapons and missions. Every military base is a destruction puzzle, where you identify explosive weak points to trigger a satisfying chain reaction. It's the kind of experience that hands you a massive map and says, if you can see it, you can blow it up. Very few games respect the player's desire to simply see what happens when the laws of physics are pushed to their limits. Kingdom Come: Deliverance. To close out the list, we have a title that does the exact opposite of the others. It forces you to be humble. Kingdom Come is a historical simulation of medieval Bohemia where you are nobody. Immersion here is built through limitations. If you want to be good with a sword, you need to train for hours with a master. If you want to understand a map or a recipe, you first have to learn how to read. Combat is technical and demands absolute attention to stance and timing, turning every duel into a tense contest where a single mistake can be fatal. The world is stunning in its realistic simplicity. Forests feel like real forests, and villages follow the logic of the period. You need to take care of your hygiene because people react to your smell and the condition of your clothes, which directly affects the success of your negotiations. Freedom here isn't about having superpowers, but about how you choose to survive in a world that doesn't care about you. Solving an investigation using nothing but persuasion or infiltrating an enemy camp under the cover of night are achievements that feel genuinely earned because the game never takes the easy way out. It's a dense and rewarding experience that repays patience and dedication like few RPGs in history. These titles prove that the games with the biggest media presence aren't always the ones that deliver the best experiences. Sometimes the boldest ideas and the most interesting systems are hidden in the very projects that most people overlooked. If you're tired of open worlds that feel like nothing more than repetitive task lists, any of the games mentioned here can bring back that genuine sense of discovery. But what about you? You definitely have an open world game you consider incredible that hardly anyone talks about. One of those experiences that kept you hooked for hours and never got the recognition it deserved. Drop a comment and tell us which game fits that description. Let's share ideas and grow this list together. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.